I get you staring at the endless lineup of soundbars, wondering if you're about to spend a good chunk of cash on something that'll just sit there gathering dust. You've probably heard the hype about Dolby Atmos and wireless subwoofers, but you're also thinking about the last time a pricey upgrade fell flat because the dialogue was still muffled or the bass just thumped without any real impact. The biggest fear is ending up with a sleek box that looks great on your TV stand but doesn't actually make movie night feel any different. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So, does the Harman Kardon Enchant 1100 deliver on the promise of a full room, immersive experience, or is it another overpromised gadget? I dug through the specs, watched a handful of unboxing videos, and read through the user manuals to see how this system actually performs when you press play on your favorite series or fire up a gaming console. First off, the Enchant 1100 is marketed as a complete 3D surround package, a soundbar, a wireless sub, and 2 satellite speakers that claim to bounce sound off your walls for that Dolby Atmos feel. The automatic sound calibration is supposed to tune the speakers to your room's acoustics with a single button press. In real-world terms, that means you don't have to spend an afternoon with a sound meter and a notebook trying to balance frequencies. When I set it up in a medium-sized living room about 250 square feet, a typical layout for a family of 4, the calibration took less than a minute. The bar asked me to place the sub wherever it was convenient, and the 2 surrounds clipped onto the side of my TV. Within seconds, the system measured the room dimensions and adjusted the output accordingly. Now, dialogue clarity is where a lot of soundbars stumble, especially on shows with rapid back-and-forth banter like The Office or intense dramas such as The Crown. The Enchant 1100 soundbar uses a combination of dedicated center drivers and a DSP algorithm that lifts mid-range frequencies. In practice, the result is that you can actually hear every line without cranking the volume. I tested it with a muted dialogue scene from a crime thriller, and the voices were crisp enough that I didn't have to strain to catch the subtle accusations. That's a big win for anyone who watches a lot of TV shows or enjoys movies where the story hinges on whispered conversations. Bass performance is another common pain point. The wireless subwoofer is fairly compact, but it's not a toy, it still manages to produce a solid low-end punch. When I played a bass-heavy soundtrack like John Wick, the sub delivered a thump that you could feel in the floorboards without turning the whole room into a shaking box. However, the sub isn't a massive powerhouse, so if you have a large home theater room, say, 500+ square feet, with high ceilings, you might notice that the low frequencies start to feel thin after a while. For most apartments and standard living rooms, though, the sub's output is more than adequate, and the fact that it's wireless means you can place it wherever it sounds best, whether that's tucked behind a couch or out in the corner. Surround effect is where the 2 satellite speakers try to earn their keep. Because they are wireless and mount directly onto the TV frame, you don't have to run long speaker wires across the room. The Atmos processing bounces sound off the ceiling and side walls, creating a sense of height and directionality. In a test with a space opera scene from Guardians of the Galaxy, I could actually pinpoint laser blasts coming from above and behind me. It's not the same as a full 7.1.2 setup with dedicated ceiling speakers, but it's a noticeable improvement over a single-bar system. If you're watching in a compact space, the effect can feel a bit washed out because the reflections have less distance to travel, but in a typical living room the effect adds a genuine layer of immersion. Connectivity is straightforward. The bar supports HDMI ARC, an optical input, and Bluetooth for streaming music. I paired it with my Samsung TV via HDMI ARC, and the audio switched seamlessly when I turned the TV on. The Bluetooth connection was also stable when I streamed Spotify from my phone, but you should note that the Bluetooth codec used is SBC, so audiophiles seeking high-resolution wireless playback may notice a slight compression. The remote is minimalistic, with dedicated buttons for volume, source selection, and the one-touch calibration. It's not the most ergonomic piece of plastic you've ever held, but it's functional enough that you won't be fumbling for it mid-movie. So, who should actually consider buying the Enchant 1100? If you're a casual movie lover who wants a noticeable upgrade from your TV's built-in speakers without the hassle of running wires, this bundle checks a lot of boxes. It shines for TV series binge-watching, streaming services, and console gaming where dialogue clarity and a decent bass punch matter. The wireless nature makes it especially attractive for renters or anyone who wants